friends! Welcome to my Call of Duty Black Ops 3 campaign review. I say campaign review because something you need to know about me is what kind of Call of Duty player I am. I am a Call of Duty player who has not played a game since Modern Warfare? No, Black Ops. Maybe the first Black Ops, so I haven't touched the series in a while. I don't do any online shenanigans unless it's cooperative campaign multiplayer. And yeah, so you need to know that about me before going into this campaign review because I haven't played a Call of Duty game in a really long time. So to me, something that's kind of exciting and fun may have been something that's completely rehashed before. But if you're like me and you want to get back into the campaign because of the co-op allure, which is what admittedly drugged me back into the series, listen up. Or if you just want to hear me maybe make a fool of myself, listen up. So Call of Duty plays like Call of Duty. I mean, there's really duty. Haha, duty. I don't enunciate my T's, so I sound like I'm saying Call of Poop this entire time. But Call of Duty plays like every Call of Duty game I've ever played. Granted, it's been a few years, but hey, it's very familiar. Like riding a bicycle. But the thing that's new this time around, for me anyway, are the core abilities. So I don't want to go into story spoilers, but you're kind of an android. Let's just leave it like that. You're kind of a robot on machine. And with that comes some cool like techniques you can switch out between and use during different levels and a bunch of abilities. Think of it that way. These abilities come in 3 different tiers. You have the control tier, you have the chaos tier, and you have control, chaos, martial tier. And under each tier are 7 additional little abilities that you can unlock through these things called fabrication kits. And you get fabrication kits by leveling up through each campaign level. At least that's the way I did it. I didn't play multiplayer, so I'm not sure if you can actually level up separately or if it all is bundled into one thing of awesomeness if you play multiplayer and campaign. Anywho, so every time I would finish a level, I would level a campaign level, I would level up, get a fabrication kit, and then I would be able to unlock my abilities. So this kind of brings me into another point that I never really use the cyber core abilities. You know, I never really found it necessary. There was one ability under the chaos, which I called it nanobugs. I don't know if that's even what they're called. It might have been called, like, I think I wrote it down. One second here. Blinding Swarm is the actual name of it, but I called them nanobugs. And basically my dude would be like, ah, and all these bugs would like come out and like kill my robotic enemies and human enemies, and it was awesome. But I never really felt the necessity to learn or master any of the other abilities. And I mean, they were fun during the tutorial. You know, they're like, okay, you can like put your arm out and hack all these drones and they'll all die, and you can hack this turret and you can shoot it as it's your own, or you can hack this little rolling tank. So there were cool things you could do with them, but during the course of the gameplay, you know, with me, I'm such a twitchy shooter player anyway. Like, I'm shooting every fucking thing that moves. Like, if a rock rolls down, I'm shooting the shit out of it. I never found the time, or I never was able to, you know, push down on the D-pad, open the radial menu, look at the skills, and then remember which skill did what, like, fluently enough to be able to use them appropriately. So what you can take away from that is that, you know, there's me. I'm the kind of player that if I'm playing a shooter, I just kind of want to be able to run and shoot shit because shooters are crazy enough for me the way it is. Or if you want to get really fancy, especially on harder difficulties, you may need to learn how to master all of those other abilities. I mean, there are 21 in total, and I only used basically 1, actually. That's the only one I ever used, my nanobugs. I mean, I think it's cool that, like, they're in the game, and it's there if you want to learn that system and, like, master it, but just as, like, FYI, you don't need to. It's not necessary, but I think it is cool that at least Treyarch did go that route and was like, hey, let's, like, implement these things. And again, to me, like, these are new, so I don't know if they've been in prior Call of Duty games, but, you know, a nice appreciated touch, but not one I really utilized much. So the whole, like, cybercore thing where you can customize your abilities and all that good stuff takes place in the safe room, which is the thing that you do between levels. It's, you know, it's basically a big CIA-looking room where you can customize your cybercores, you can customize your loadout, upgrade your armor and your weapons, which admittedly is a thing I did not know you could do until the very last level of the game, because I never remember seeing a tutorial about that, and I was just like, I like my armor and my weapons the way they are, I'm not even going to touch them. Turns out I could have been using those fabrication kits, not on cores that I would never ultimately use, but on my armor and my weapons. that would have been amazing to have known. My bad, should have paid more attention. There's also an immersion zone where you can like test out all those fancy cybercore abilities and your new fancy weapons if you want. There's also a mission briefing area, which I think is going to be really important if you want to play on those harder difficulties, because it'll tell you what kind of enemies you can expect. You know, if you're going to expect robots or humans, you probably will want to change your cybercore loadout, because some abilities are good only for robots, some are only good for humans. So I liked the safe room. It was a nice little breather, because each mission maybe took about 45 minutes, maybe a little longer. So instead of going for boom, ba-doom, ba-doom, woohoo, you got to do the mission and then go to the safe room, kind of chill out, check out your gear. Or you can play this really cool mini game called Dead Ops. Dead Ops 2 maybe is what it was. But it was unexpected to me. I just kind of stumbled across it in the data center, I think is where I found it. And top-down zombie survival shooter. That's really weird, and it's like someone must have been on some sort of really crazy drugs when they invented that. Maybe it was in prior games. I don't know. Played that for probably a couple hours, and it was just fun.
Set up arcade 2. Start user banking.
As for the campaign itself, like I said, I haven't played a Call of Duty campaign in a while, but kind of reminded me of typical Call of Duty games. I should rephrase that. I should say the first half kind of reminded me of typical Call of Duty campaign. You know, you have your vanilla characters who are all like, oh, we're badass and we're gonna kill everybody.
Kill the son of a bitch!
You know, and cinematic and big explosions. I really liked... Okay, I gotta be careful how I word this. I thought the entire Call of Duty campaign was fun to play. I think I enjoyed the first half of the campaign more because it was easier to follow in terms of story. I will not spoil anything for you, but that game takes a weird turn, and you'll know. Once you think you're playing it and you're like, oh, that's the weird turn she was talking about. No. Play the whole thing through and you'll understand. But anywho, so you know, very cinematic, very immersive. I liked the fights. I felt like, you know, they were very immersive as opposed to, I don't want to compare games because I know they're totally different, but I recently reviewed Halo 5, and one of the complaints I had, minor complaint, was that the firefights didn't feel super immersive. I didn't feel like I was an integral part of this, even though I was the only character on the screen, the only protagonist trying to kill everybody. But in Call of Duty, super immersive, cinematic. If I say those two words one more time, feel free to shoot me. But the point is that I think the game played really well. The campaign was engaging, as, you know, typical Call of Duty campaigns are. Characters, you know, you never really feel too attached to them, but I felt more attached to them than I have in prior shooters, if that makes any sense. I hope so. Speaking of characters, I want to take a second to talk about the main character. Now, when I think of Call of Duty, I think of, if Call of Duty characters, I think of Soap, right? Everyone knows Soap, and you kind of form a little attachment with him, and you kind of feel like you really are him, and you have a voice, and you kind of are this character. With Black Ops 3, the character's name is literally Player. That's the name of your character. It's just Player. And and I don't know if this is a fair thing for me to even talk about because it's a FPS, it's not a BioWare game or anything like that, but there were moments during the game where, you know, there was kind of a critical decision coming up, and, you know, the game's going to go the way it's going to go, but it would have been neat had I been given the option to choose, or at least make me feel like I had a say in what happened, if that makes any sense, because it's the character's name is Player, but you really have, I wasn't agreeing with half the shit this person was saying, but it was supposed to be me. Maybe I played too many RPGs, and again, I know it might not be fair for me to kind of gripe about that, but it would have been interesting and more realistic to me if I could have been hey, let's go save those people, instead of my character being oh, they're not part of the mission, fuck them.
Hendrix, stand down, it's not our mission. There's not a lot we can do here.
You know what I mean? especially since the character's name was Player, and that's supposed to be me, so can I at least, like, form some sort of bond with that person? I want to give props to the AI. Some of the better AI I've seen, I didn't catch my AI once, like, staring at walls or shooting the ground, or you know what I mean. Like, in fact, I would say that the AI played better than I did half of the time. And granted, there are moments when they are scripted to do so, like, oh, let's break down the store, rah, you break it down, and your buddy, like, cinematically, like, punches some guy through his face, you know. And granted, like, okay, wow, you did really good because the game has programmed you to do really good at that moment. But during firefights, like, they were always, like, next to me or in front of me, and they were definitely shooting shit and taking people down, so props to that. Too long, didn't read version. Call of Duty Black Ops 3 reminds me of all the other Call of Duty games I've played. This time around, though, you know, there are those core abilities that, you know, if you want to dabble in them, great, you can be a badass and hack all sorts of shit. But if you want to ignore those, like I did, go for it. The game will still be beatable if you play it on a normal difficulty, which is also what I did. I don't know if you get in the harder levels, you may have to kind of get fancy and use that stuff. Whatever. Cinematic, super immersive. Characters, you know, they're, I would say, in terms of a short 6-7 hour campaign, you don't have a lot of time with these characters throughout different missions, but I would say that they are some of the better ones I've encountered in the fact that, like, I actually felt a little connection to them, and I was kind of worried that someone was gonna die. The campaign, first half, like, to me, I really, really enjoyed the first half because I could follow what was happening, and you know, you're kind of curious because I did have that connection with some of those characters. Second half got really weird, but I have to give props to Treyarch for trying something new. I mean, I've never seen that in a Call of Duty game before, and it was like an acid trip. I won't say anything more. So, in short, as far as the campaign goes, I would definitely recommend it, especially if you have friends who want to play. You know, they have 4-player local co-op supportive, which is awesome. I played split screen co-op, and it was really fun. Brought me back to days of old. So yeah, I mean, Call of Duty, it is what it is. It's a Call of Duty game. Super fun. I would definitely recommend it. You know, I mean, I'm not going crazy over it, but yeah, it was fun. It was what you would expect, and it was not a disappointment. Thanks for watching, guys! I hope I bumbled my way through that as good as I could, considering I'm not a Call of Duty guru, but hopefully some of you can appreciate the words that came out of my mouth. Hopefully.